Okay, now we're moving on to part 5 of the Content Clarity Framework. Today we are doing part 5, the Write Your Brand Story. So hello and welcome, and thank you so much for joining. I am so glad that you're here for part 5 of the Content Clarity Framework. But before we get into that, let's cover what we've already learned. In part 1, we figured out who we serve, what type of membership we're building, and what transformation we're going to give our members. That alone gave us around 7 pieces of content. Part 2, we mapped out all the steps inside of our goals, each exact system that we're going to walk our members through. And if everyone completed all of their homework, we should have around 39 pieces of content to record right now. In part 3 and 4, we also covered the objections that are going on in a member's mind. That's the time, money, effort, and sacrifice. And we went deeper into the false beliefs that are laying underneath those objections. We also talked about an experience that creates an emotion, which then creates a story that becomes our beliefs. And this is what we judge all future decisions on the beliefs that we've created over our lives. So we've done serious work to get here. And today we're going to do something that's really exciting. Today we're going to take everything that we know about our audience, the transformation we offer, the journey. Now my avatar's name is Marcus. So we're going to take the transformation that we offer, the journey that I'm offering Marcus. It's actually Marcus and Mary. But today I'm going to focus on Marcus, the problems that we solve for them, and that we're going to turn all of that into a story, and it's going to be our brand's movie story. So by the end of today's training, you're going to have a complete 7-step brand story written out in your own words. This becomes the foundation for every ad that you write, every email that you write, every piece of content that's created going forward. So why do we need a brand story? Now, before I walk through the framework, I want to explain why we're doing this. Because if we have a better understanding and we understand why, we're going to take it more seriously. So I want to talk about, I got this from the book, Donald Miller, Building a Story Brand. This is what the training is coming from today. And I'm going to take you step by step through that. So actually, I want to cover something that was actually not in my notes today. And this is very important. He calls it his SB7, the Storybook Framework. So he's asking his friend why the SB7 works and why the formula works. This is what he says. What's happening in the brains of consumers as they encounter a message filters through this formula. What's the science behind why brands like Apple and Coke, who intuitively use this formula, demonstrate or dominate the marketplace? There's a reason. Most marketing collaterally doesn't work. Mike said, putting his feet on the coffee table, their marketing is too complicated. So we want to make it very simple for people to understand. The brain doesn't know how to process the information. The more simple and predictable the communication, the easier it is for the brains to digest. Stories help because it is a sense-making mechanism. Essentially, story formulas put everything in order so the brain doesn't have to work to understand what's going on. And he also talks about that we need to make sure that we're addressing the Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of need. This is the first need that the brain is trying to take care of, is our need to eat and drink and physically survive. So that's us having an income. Then the brain is concerned with safety. And after that comes food and shelter that we're taking care of. Then is our relationships. This is from a relationship for reproduction, and being nurtured in a romantic relationship, and to creating friendships or a tribe. Finally, the brain begins to concern itself with greater physiological, psychological things, even spiritual needs that give us a sense of meaning. So we want to make sure that our marketing meets their primitive need to survive. So if we're talking about the biggest manufacturing plant on the West Coast. Our consumers don't care. Why? Because that information is not helping them eat, drink, find a mate, fall in love, build a tribe, experience a deeper sense of meaning, or stockpile weapons in case of an attack. So I'm going to take you through all of these steps today. And the first one is the biggest mistake that brands make is they make themselves the hero. Think about every ad that you've ever seen. Somebody is talking about how great their program is, how much they've achieved, how many deals they've done, how many awards they've won. That's the brand making themselves the hero. And you know what? Nobody cares. Because here's the truth. When Marcus finds me on Facebook or YouTube, he's not looking for a hero. He's looking for a guide. He's already the hero in his own story. He's already in the middle of a flip. He's already got the deal with the market and the pressure. He's already laying awake at 2 a.m. running the math on whether he should drop the price. He's living the adventure. What he needs is someone to show him and walk alongside him and guide him through the process. I've been there. I've been exactly where he is, and this is the way through. So the key insight to that is my customer, who is Marcus, he is the hero. I'm the guide in his story. So the moment you flip that switch in your messaging, everything else changes. Make your customer the hero. So now think about every great movie that you've ever watched. Now, this is examples from the book. So, Luke Skywalker needed Yoda. Frodo needed Gandalf. The hero always needs a guide. Someone who has been through the fire. Someone has been there and has the wisdom and the tools. And who shows them exactly the right moment. And they show up at the exact right moment and help the hero survive. And that's our role. We need to make sure we're taking that role in our customer's journey. Not the person who figured it all out from teaching from a safety place, but the person who was caught in the exact same storm, mid-flip, market shifted, houses sitting, bills piling up, and built a solution in real time. That's the guide Marcus needs. And when our brand story reflects that, there's a big difference. And most people have trouble with the selling process. So this takes the selling out. You're just rescuing someone. So now there's 7 steps in this process. So let me tell you Here are the 7 steps in a nutshell. You have a character who wants something. Well, the character is the first one. Who wants something and they encounter a problem. The problem is the second one. Before they can get it, at the peak of their desperation, a guide steps in to help them and gives them a plan and calls them into action, and that action helps them avoid failure, and it ends in success. So those are the 7 steps. You got a character who's got a problem, they need a guide, you have the plan, it causes them to take action, and it avoids failure, and they end in success. So that's what we're going to go through today. So Donald Miller, in this book, he maps it all out, and he calls it the SB7 framework. 7 parts of his story. And every great movie, every story that that's ever moved us has it. And if you've got the Content Clarity Framework template, open it now. Follow right along with me. And if you need it, if you need a copy of the Content Clarity Framework, just drop me a line and I'll get it over to you right away. So step 1 in today's process is a character. And like for me, it's Marcus. So every story starts with a character. Now this is not the demographics, this is not the target market. It's a person who is our hero. So what does their day look like? What are they carrying right now? What keeps them up at night? For me, my hero is, as I said, it's Marcus. He's 41 years old. He's a construction project manager in Charlotte. He's closed 12 deals. He earns around $95,000 between his W-2 and his flip properties or profits. But before every single deal, after every single deal, he starts over from zero. No reoccurring income, no safety net, just waiting to see if the next house sells. He's up watching YouTube at 11 p.m., not for entertainment. He's trying to solve a specific problem. And he's quietly measuring himself against people he sees on Facebook groups. And they look like they're scaling faster than he is with less effort. That's my character. It's specific, it's real, it's human. Not a house flipper aged 35 to 50. You've got to get specific and detailed for this to work. So, the more specific our character, the more people see themselves in them. A vague hero attracts no one. A specific hero attracts everyone who recognizes themselves in that description. So step one is a character who is our hero. So in this step, you're going to describe your ideal member as a real specific person. Even give them a name, like mine is Marcus and Mary. What does a day look like in their life? What are they carrying right now? What are they thinking about? What's keeping them up at night? What are they trying to achieve? Now let me give you the example from mine. I find it's easier if you have an example when you're doing this. So I'm going to, throughout the whole process, each step, I'm going to give you my examples, how I completed my movie story. So Marcus, 41, a construction project manager. 12 flips completed, earning $95K combined, but starting over at zero after every deal. Watches YouTube at 11 p.m., quietly measuring himself against people in his Facebook groups who look like they're scaling faster. So when you've got all of that figured out, you've got step one completed. You know your character, and you cannot move forward to step two until you complete step one. Now, you don't have to do this right now today. Just know that that is the process. So, step two has a problem. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Every hero has to have a problem, or they're not interesting. No one cares. So Donald Miller says that there are actually three layers to a problem, and most brands only address the surface one. So the first one is there's an external problem. That's the thing that we can all see. For Marcus, the external problem is simple. He has no reoccurring income that survives a flip falling through. And then there's internal problems. This is the emotional weight underneath the external problem. So for Marcus, the internal problem is fear. He fears that he's not cut out for this type of work, that he's an amateur pretending to be an entrepreneur, that if it doesn't work out, he'll have to explain to his wife and kids why he didn't make it. And then there's the philosophical problem. So you've got external, internal, and philosophical problems. This is the injustice of a situation. The thing that feels fundamentally wrong. Like for Marcus, it's hardworking flippers who do quality work and serve their communities shouldn't have to be one bad market away from losing everything. That's not right. See how that you get a fill in there that's describing exactly what Marcus's philosophical problem is? So if I can create content around that need, it's going to land a lot better. So when we address all three layers in our content, our messaging improves. Marcus doesn't feel marketed to, he feels understood. And that's opening the door. So step two, our character has a problem. The problem has three layers. It's external, internal, and philosophical. External is the surface problem. Internal is the emotional weight underneath. Philosophical is the injustice, what's fundamentally wrong about the hero's situation. So now let me give you my example for step 2. External is no recurring income that survives the flip falling through. Then the internal is fear of being exposed as an amateur who didn't make it work. And the third one is philosophical, is hardworking flippers who do quality work shouldn't be one bad deal away from losing everything. So when you've got all of that mapped out, you're ready to move to step 3. And step 3, this is where they meet the guide. And this is us. They're meeting us. This is our brand. And remember what we talked about. We are a guide, not the hero. So how does a guide show up? According to Donald Miller, it's the guide establishes credibility 2 ways. There's empathy first, and then there's authority second, and in that order always. So empathy means that we lead with, I understand where you are. I felt what you're feeling. I know what 2 a.m. looks like when a house is not selling and hard money clock is ticking. Then authority comes in, which means, and I found a way through it. Here's the proof. Not a trophy on the wall, not a testimonial from some famous person. The proof is our origin story. We are mid-flip. The cabinet maker delayed us 2 months and the money was already tight. The market shifted. The house sat for 6 months. It sold twice but fell through twice. And I built the real estate growth program in the middle of all of that. See how I'm leading with empathy, and then I bring the proof in later. So the first is I'm explaining, I know what you feel like. I know I've been there myself and I found a way out. And here's the proof, the real estate growth program. So that's authority Marcus can trust, not because we're perfect, but because we survived the exact thing he's scared of. And we've got a system that came out of it. So like if you're lost in the woods and you're walking along, and then say your ideal customer, your character, is lost in the woods. They walk around and they accidentally run into you. This is where you can calm them down, let them know last time you were in here you got lost too, but you found the way out. You know they're scared, you felt that way too, but you stayed calm, you went off of what you learned as a kid, and you found your way out, and you guide them out of the woods. You don't just say, here's a map, go find your way out. You say, just come with me, let me show you how to get out of this. If you can keep that mentality in your mind when you're writing your content, you're going to be so much further ahead than the competition. So to recap step 3, this is where they meet the guide. And you got to show empathy first and then authority second. So how does our brands demonstrate the empathy? And then showing that we understand the hero's world. We've been there, we know what they're going through, we felt that. And then authority comes in next, giving them the proof, showing them that we know the way out. So here's an example from my story brand. Empathy. I started my first flip in mid-August 2025. Cabinet maker delayed 2 months when money was already tight. Mid-flip, the market shifted. The house sat, sold twice, fell through twice. I know exactly what pressure feels like. And then the authority comes in. I built the real estate growth program in real time while I was living the problem, not from a stage after winning. So once you've got all that mapped out, you've completed step 3 and you're ready to move on to step 4. Step 4 is where we give them a plan. So here's where most people breathe a sigh of relief, because we're finally to the part where we're talking about what we actually do. But Miller points out it's important here. The plan needs to be simple. 3 to 4 steps max, because a confused mind always says no. This is why I urged you when you're back doing step 1 to only make your framework 3 to 4 steps, not 5 to 10, because you need to make it simple. So think about it. If I gave Marcus a 47-step process before he's even signed up, what is that going to do? It's going to overwhelm him before he even starts. And he's going to just say no. He's going to delete that lead magnet and he's not going to get started. We want him to feel like the path is clear and walkable, not like he's trying to climb Mount Everest alone and climbing for the first time. So my plan for Marcus has 4 steps. Step 1 is create the membership structure. Step 2 is we build the brand and attract his audience. Step 3 is we nurture those leads and build trust. Step 4 is we retain members and grow from the inside out. That's it. Everything we do inside the Real Estate Growth Program, and it ladders up from those 4 steps. So each one builds on the previous one. It's simple, it's clear, it's achievable. That's what the plan looks like. So to recap step 4, this is where we give them a plan. It's 3 to 4 clear steps. What is the simple, clear path we're giving our hero? Keep it to 3 to 4 steps maximum. This should feel walkable, not overwhelming. So here's my example. Step 1, you create a membership structure. Who we serve, the transformation we offer, and then step 2, we build our brand. YouTube and Facebook ads at $5 a day to attract our audience. Step 3, we nurture those leads with email, SMS automation so we never lose a warm lead. And then step 4 is we retain our members, track progress, celebrate wins, generate referrals. So once you've mapped out step 4, you're moving along to step 5. You're almost there. Step 5 is then something we do calls them to action. So a guide doesn't just hand them a map and walk away, like I was talking about when we were in the woods. We didn't just hand them a map and walk away. A guide says, come on, let's go. That's the call to action. So it's as simple as that. The person in the woods ran into you. They're scared, they're crying, they're all upset. You calm them down. You ask them what's going on. You tell them your story, that you got lost too. You were just as scared. You found the way out. You're going to walk with them. Come go with me. It's as simple as that. Now, Miller talks about 2 different kinds of calls to action. There's a direct call to action, which is a join now, a book a call, or get started. That's an invitation to a commitment. And then there's a transitional call. That's got lower stakes, and it lets someone test the water before they jump in. It's more like a comment for a checklist after a post or something like that. Or it's download a worksheet, or it's watch the free training. So both matter. The transitional call builds trust. The direct call closes the deals. And you need both in your messaging. And they should both be clear and easy to find. For me, the direct call to action is book a call. Let's look at your specific situation, run the numbers together, and figure out if the Real Estate Growth Program is the right fit for where you are right now. That's my direct call to action. And the transitional call to action is comment checklist on a post and get the Flip Survival checklist right away. There's no pitch, just the tool that you can use today. So to recap step 5, it calls them to take action. There's a direct call and a transitional call. So what is your direct call to action? The commitment ask. And then you want to figure out what is your transitional call to action. This is the lower stakes first step that builds trust before you ask for the commitment. So as always, here's an example from mine. Direct, book a call, let's look at your numbers together. Transitional is comment checklist, gets the Flip Survival checklist sent to you immediately. There's no pitch, just the tool you can use today. So don't make it harder than it needs to be. Make it easy as it can possibly be. Easy to understand, no confusion. Confusion always says no. So now we're moving to step 6. We're almost there. There's only 7 in this. So step 6 is that helps them avoid failure. This is the stakes section. And I want you to resist the urge to skip or to soften it, because this is where your story gets real. Every great story has something at risk. If Frodo doesn't destroy the ring, Middle-earth fails. If Marcus doesn't build reoccurring income stream, what happens? He stays stuck flipping 1 to 2 houses a year. The market shifts and he has nothing to fall back on. He has to cut his prices so deep that he loses money, like David did. Now, if you remember David's story, David is a guy that came to give me a bid on one of my rental properties. He's a contractor. So he came to give me a bid. We got to talking, and I was just starting the flip process, and he told me his story, that he flipped houses also. He had always wanted to do it. He finally got the nerve. He flipped houses, and he absolutely bombed. He lost his shirt. So he told it to me as a cautionary tale not to do it, not as a motivational tale. He was telling it as a warning. Like, no one can succeed at this. You've got to have millions of dollars to make money at flipping. He didn't understand how it works. It did not work for him. He got stuck back as a contractor doing something he didn't want to truly do because he gave up on his dream. So that's David's story. So now back to Marcus's. So let me say it again. He stays stuck flipping 1 to 2 houses a year. The market shifts and he has nothing to fall back on. He has to cut the price so deep that he loses money, like David did. He goes back to working a construction job full time. His wife keeps working the job that she hates because his income is not enough. He wakes up at 60 with no residual income and no legacy, and must explain to his kids why he didn't take the leap when he had the chance. That's not fear-mongering. That's David's story. And you know what? Marcus needs to hear it. Not to scare him into buying, but because the real cost of not acting is greater than the cost of acting. And Marcus deserves to know that before he decides. So to recap step 6, what you need to do is you got to help them to avoid failure. This is where the stakes get real. What happens to your hero if they didn't take action? I want you to be specific and honest. This is not fear-mongering. It's telling the truth about what's at risk. So as always, here's my example. Without recurring income, one bad market wipes everything out. Marcus keeps starting from zero after every flip. Desperate money forces desperate decisions. Price cuts that cost more than any membership ever would. David lost his entire flipping business and went back to construction. He told me he would never flip again. That's the cost of no safety net. And that's the story that Marcus needs to hear so that he can take action now and build this membership before his next flip. Now we're to the final step. When you've got all those mapped out, you're ready to go to step 7. And it ends in success. This is the transformation. This is what Marcus's life looks like after he said yes. And I want you to paint this picture as specifically and as humanly as possible. Not just financial freedom and passive income. Those are abstractions. Marcus doesn't connect with abstractions. He connects with Tuesday morning. So what does Tuesday morning look like? When the membership is working, he wakes up and checks his phone, not to see if anyone made an offer on his house, but to see how many members joined overnight. He goes to his son's soccer game on Saturday without his phone buzzing with contractor problems. His wife looks at him over dinner and says, "I think this is actually going to work." He doesn't have to drop the price on the flip because the membership is almost covered the holding cost for this month. That's what success looks like for Marcus. Not a Lamborghini, not a mansion, a Tuesday morning where he doesn't start from zero. So again, to recap step 7, It ends in success. What does life look like after they said yes to your membership? Paint a specific human picture of your hero's life after they took action and started to work with you. What changed? What does Tuesday morning look like now? My dog just saw a bird outside. Molly, no! One day I swear she's going to bust that window out. She takes her paws and hits it. Okay, sorry about that. So now here's an example of mine. Marcus wakes up and checks his phone, not to see if the house sold, but to see how many members joined overnight. He goes to his son's game on Saturday without the flip following him. His wife says, I think this is actually going to work this time. He didn't have to drop the price this month because the membership covered most of his holding cost. He's not starting from zero anymore. So now I want you to put all of this together. This becomes your brand's movie story. And you got to put it together in one paragraph. That's the catch. So now you have all 7 pieces. And here's what I want you to do with them. I want you to write your brand story in one simple paragraph. One paragraph that you can read aloud in 60 seconds or less. This isn't the paragraph you're going to copy and paste into an ad. This is a paragraph that you internalize. This is a story that's going to come out naturally every time you're on camera, every time you're at a sales call, every time someone on Facebook asks a group what you do. So here's mine, so you can see exactly what it looks like. House flippers work hard, do quality work, and still find themselves one bad deal away from losing everything because they have no income that survives a flip falling through. That financial pressure doesn't just hurt the bank account. It forces desperate decisions that cost more than any safety net ever would have. I know that feeling. I started my first flip in August 2025 and watched the market shift mid-rehab. The house sat for 6 months, sold twice, and fell through twice. And I built a real estate growth program in the middle of all of it. Not because I had it all figured out, but because I needed it and it did not exist. The program walks flippers through 4 steps: building a membership structure, attracting an audience at $5 a day on Facebook and YouTube, nurturing leads automatically, and retaining members so the income actually reoccurs. The direct step is booking a call, so that we can look at your specific numbers together. The free step is commenting checklist after a post, and I'll send a flip survival checklist right away. If Marcus doesn't build something that runs alongside his flip, he'll keep starting from zero, and the market will eventually catch up with him without a safety net. But if he does the work, he wakes up one Tuesday morning and realizes the membership is covering most of his holding costs this month, and he didn't have to drop the price. That's 60 seconds. That's one paragraph. That's my brand story. And when you know it well, everything else, the ads, the emails, the sales calls, becomes much easier because you're not making it up every time. You're just telling the same story in a different way. So here's your homework for the week. Here's what I want you to do before next week's training. Step 1, complete all 7 elements of the worksheet. Use your content clarity framework. Everything you need is already there. Don't create new material. Pull from what we've already built. That's the purpose of all the other trainings. You're building on it. You're pulling from what has already been done. Then I want you to read it aloud. Does it sound like you? Does it sound like something that you could say on a sales call without reading a script? If not, keep refining until it does. Step 3, share your paragraph in the Flip and Build community. Tag me. I want to read every single one. And I want the rest of the group to read them as well. Because hearing each other's stories is one of the most powerful things that we can do in this community. And as always, if you need the StoryBrand worksheet, drop me a line and I'll send it over right away. I'm so proud of the work we've done. This is the stuff most people never take the time to build, and it's the difference between a brand that converts and a brand that just posts content and hopes something sticks. Come back next week. We're going to build, we've got more to build, and we're doing the 4 A's next week. It's 4 ways to reach every audience. If you use all 4 content modes, so every type of person in our audience connects with us. So thank you so much for taking time to watch this today. Go do your homework and come back next week for the next training. Thanks a lot. Have a great day. I'll see you next weekend.